Hello, and welcome to Moth News. My name is Keith Walsh. I am thrilled to be joined today by Irish advocate Gareth Landy, a man who turned the challenges of being diagnosed with Klinefelter syndrome, I'm sure he can correct me on my pronunciation if that wasn't right, into a mission to empower others. From his first live TV appearance in New York during National Fertility Awareness Week to marathon runs, raising awareness across Europe, Gareth has transformed personal struggle into public advocacy. Today, he's here not only as a father of twins conceived through donor-assisted conception, but also as a professional speaker and change maker in male infertility. Let's jump right in. Gareth, are you there? Are you there live from a secret bunker in somewhere in Kildare? Let's not tell people.
Yeah. Oh no, my location's revealed.
Gareth, let's get right into it now. I'm going to start with the marathon. I mean, congratulations on your marathon fundraising work. Can you tell us, like, what inspired you to run these marathons? The cause you have supported, and the next one will support, and what have you got coming up then?
Well, man, it's great to see you. So I'm running my 6th marathon this coming Saturday on the 6th of September. And it kind of ties in nicely because 1 in 6 people globally experience infertility. And that statistic is coming from the World Health Organization. So this Saturday, 666, that's some fella's phone number, isn't it? Don't know who it is. Something positive there.
Is it the number of the beast? Let's not talk about that.
So I will be running my 6th marathon to raise funds and raise awareness for a fantastic new UK charity called Fertility Action. And this was set up by a fantastic woman called Katie, who like me, experienced IVF. She went through a lot of trauma, like myself and my wife, to have a family. And she's a really incredible person. And I got earlier this year, and I said, I'm going to run a marathon. I'm running a marathon. I love doing them. Like, some people find it quite difficult to hear. You like putting yourself through that much pain. But I do enjoy doing it. And I said, why don't I run it for you guys? Because it would help raise awareness of it and help raise funds and try and, if we start talking about fertility more and more, I really believe the more and more we talk about it, it will help to break that stigma.
Like 1 in 6 is quite. I'm surprised by that number because of, exactly as you say, it's not part of any conversations I ever have with anybody, especially men. I mean, actually, I take that back. It is part of conversations, but very few, and it's usually somebody you're very close to who's going through it who will share some of that. You'll chat to them about it and see how you're getting on and check in with them and all that kind of stuff. But it's not really talked about as much in the media, especially the male infertility. I think women's infertility is talked probably a lot. There's just a bit of an imbalance, and I think the presumption is that I do feel women feel the burden of it as well, because they're the ones that are, it's all very much like, yes, it's talked about more from the women's side of things, which is good for them, and there should be more talk from the men's side of things, but also the women bear the burden of the pressure to have the children as well. Do you know what I mean? It would seem, but I mean, maybe correct me if I'm wrong.
No, you will be correct. Like, I think it's ridiculous. Why can't boys and men have a conversation about it? Like, why can't, I was, as an example, I was in Nace yesterday getting my running top designed and printed. I'm going to run on Saturday. It was all lads in the shop, and I was talking about the design of it, and I said on the phone, I want to have sperm on it. And they went, what? I said, I want to have sperm on my running top. And they're like, I started giggling and laughing about it. And then I met guys, like, these guys are all like, they're probably their 60s. And there was this like, so in the end, when I went in, I talked about what I was doing. I educated them. But one guy was really engaged in the conversation. And I am sure the others were all listening. But because we decided, that's one example of many I've had. Because we as a society just do not talk about male fertility or infertility, which is ridiculous. Like I I know I haven't brought in my own story, like my own experience and stuff. Like, I really believe one of the ways we need to talk about this is to change how we teach our children. Like you know, when you and I went through school, we learned about the reproductive system. Young girls and women are really aware of their cycles. Like, we all know women have cycles every month, but guys just assume, oh, I just have sperm. But like, why aren't, when guys go through puberty, come out the other side, why aren't they been offered semen analysis to see do they have sperm? And then people will say, oh, I went for my semen analysis. I almost want to be almost like when women go for smear tests. Like, this is not difficult, but there seems to be, I don't know, I think there's a lot of men that see it as an attack on their masculinity. I think because we as a society, like, I remember when I was a child, my dad or my dad would say, when you have a son, there's always assumed to be a boy, and it was always assumed you would have a child. And we, as become parents, we then re-ingrain this mindset into our children. And then people saying, well, how do we change it? Well, we can change it through the education system. And like, that's one of my many ideas. It's not, I don't think it's groundbreaking. I think it's just like, it's changing your perspective. But the ripple effect across our society will be massive. It will help reduce that burden to women, because it's crazy. Like I know you have other questions. Like, I have learned as well. A guy somewhere in England contacted me last year about his fertility, 2 years ago. And I said, well, I use donor sperm because I don't have any sperm. And then he said to me, well, because of his religion, he couldn't use donor sperm. And like, to be honest, I'm still flabbergasted. Like, and then I asked him, I said, well, can you take blood? Like, if you're in a car accident. He goes, oh, yeah, we can do that. I said, well, how about if we needed an organ? Oh, yeah, we can do that too. But you can't take sperm. Because, no, it's against our religion. And I was like, I don't mean to talk ill of people who are very religious or into that religion, but why? Why are you saying you can't use donor sperm? Like,
a lot of this, I mean, if you look at how we teach sex and about love and about intimacy and reproduction and all that kind of stuff in schools in Ireland, especially because we're a Catholic country by and large, the church have their hands all over it, and interference of religion. I have no problem with anybody believing in whatever they like. If you want to believe that there's a big welly boot at the end of the garden and you pray to that, and that's like whatever gets you through, man. I'm cool with it. I have my own spirituality and it's different, and some of it includes a fella called Jesus and what his teachings were, and my belief is that his teachings were totally different to what the church is telling us his teachings were. And I believe that we are God, and that's what the church is in the temple. I have all sorts of like mad beliefs, and I like them, but I don't need to push them on anybody else. And I don't think that religion should have any involvement in education or how we run the country. We should live in a society where religion is there for people who want it and they have access to it, but it's not involved in making decisions around religion or culture or industry or anything really. It just shouldn't be involved in it. There's no place for it. It's like, I mean, absolutely, I'd be happy for a government official to go to his local priest and ask him for advice on things he's worried about. Go to whoever you need to talk to, to do that. But to have direct influence, and we had it in Ireland for a long time, it just isn't helpful, and it's proven to be helpful. And to have these arbitrary rules, for religions to have arbitrary rules like, oh no, you're not allowed to take sperm. Why? Well, because there's a thing in the Bible that said something, and that might be about sperm, so that's the rule. And then you go, well, actually, the Bible was kind of made up by somebody, and the reason it was made up is because they needed to find out how they could make money out of religion. And if they actually told people that you are God, and you just need to like talk to yourself and be kind to yourself and do all the work on yourself, and nobody would make money on that. So you got to dive into these things, and it's part of this discussion, because it's very simple for a teacher when they're talking about fertility, reproduction, having children, the future. They've got to be able to say, if it's 1 in 6, they've got to be able to say, there's got to be a paragraph in there going, look, not everybody can just have a child. You know, it's incredible if you do, but if you can't conceive, that's okay. And there's ways, there's ways around that. And if you really want to have a child, you can go down this route or go down this route. That's a very, very simple conversation to have. It removes shame. It makes it, it makes all the boys or all the girls in the class feel comfortable about the fact that maybe one day they might encounter a problem when it comes to having children, and they're aware of it. And it doesn't then, I'd imagine you as a man growing up in Ireland, or I know you grew up in the UK, Ireland, the North. It must have really shocked you. I presume up until that moment that you found out you couldn't have children. Up until that moment, you just presumed you could have children.
Yeah, so like it's a good way to bring in my story. So
yeah. Let's get into it. Yeah, because you have your XXY, you have an extra chromosome that has. Did you discover that because you couldn't have children, or what way did that work? You tell me.
Yeah, that's how most people who are XXY learn their XXY. So as a kind of indicator, I actually, when I was a small child, I had an undescended testicle, but I had the operation to correct that. But there was no follow-up check post-puberty to see were my testicles working, because people don't do that. I don't know why, but that didn't happen. So I didn't have any idea. I used to kind of tire quite a bit. I was talking to friends from college about it, and they say, Gareth, you used to be half asleep in college in classes. Of course, I don't remember because I was asleep. But an indicator of XXY is lower natural testosterone levels. So a lot of guys would fatigue and tire quite easily. There's a scale we use in Europe from 0 to 30. So 19 to 24 is an optimal range for an XY man. When I learned I was XXY, my natural testosterone levels were 11 to 13 on that scale. So I kind of say I operated all my life on a third less testosterone than what I should have. There's a guy in the UK I know, and when he found out he was XXY, his levels were 3 or 4 in that scale, like exhausted. Shop, and people used to tease him, couldn't lift the boxes. Well, of course, he couldn't lift the boxes because he didn't have enough testosterone. So, but he didn't know. And then because no one talks about fertility, no one talks about that men aren't all these alpha males, which is symbolic. It is. He was teased a lot about this. So what happened was I had 2 semen analysis in Ireland. It was a dreadful experience with the consultant that we went to see, referred to by our GP. The consultant didn't examine me. He looked at some of the reports, and he turned around. He said, Gareth, it doesn't work downstairs. You need to get over that and move on. And that was a paid consultant my wife and I went to see. And that's hopeless. This guy's now retired, which is a great thing. But we're medical. I know some medical people will resent that have said this, but my experience and others I've talked to across the world, we're all quite similar, that when it comes to fertility, when it comes to male consultants, not all male consultants, just to clarify that, but a lot of male consultants, they don't have the training, they don't have the empathy to help men with their fertility. And as you can imagine, I kind of spiraled after that. On that point, I started playing my Xbox more, drinking more booze, just kind of gave up in a lot of ways. I became very depressed. Of course, you become depressed because your whole life, and in a lot of ways, I'm very similar to a lot like you and like other guys. You just feel you have sperm because we just don't talk. And then you're dropped this massive bombshell in such a horrific way. And then your man just sent us on our way. So Anna, my wife, found out about this amazing consultant in London. And his name is Jonathan Ramsey, my consultant. And we went to see him. And he started asking me questions about my past and how I saw the world and stuff like that. And then he arranged for me to get this thing called a carrier type test. So a geneticist counts the chromosomes of a blood sample. and it's a very expensive test. I think it's about £1,000 now, and that is the only scientifically proven way I'm aware of to prove your XXY. So then it was confirmed that I was XXY. Now, he did say some guys who are XXY, they can produce sperm. Not all of them, but we do this operation where we like a reconnaissance, like these needles are injected into your testicles to see do you have sperm. It's less invasive than the second operation I went for that more people are aware of. The one I went for is called an FNA, which stands for fine aspiration. So you're knocked out here, so that's a good start. And when the results came in, I remember very clearly Jonathan Ramsey came into me in the Hammersmith Hospital, and he said to Anna and I, Gareth is one of a kind. The very first person I've ever come across in his mid to late 30s that I'm aware of, or any of my colleagues around the world are aware of, who has the ability to produce the building blocks that build sperm, which was amazing. Like, it was fantastic. Whereas, and like that, so I potentially had the ability to produce sperm. He then classified me as a mosaic of XXY, which means I have XY and XXY sex cells. And he's still my consultant because he's a decent, kind person. He could retire. Like, Jonathan Ramsey, he could retire. Like, he doesn't have to work, but I think he loves doing what he does. So then I went on like a program of drugs. I was on hormone therapy. I was taking Clomid. That's a drug given to women for breast cancer. Because it was hoped that my body would absorb all these chemicals and then turn it into the fuel to make sperm. This was the idea. With all the stress of it and everything that, I ended up being in Nace Hospital for 8 days. I had my appendix out. Like, this is, it's so traumatic on your body, mentally and physically, doing all this. But I was so determined to try and have a family. I then had my third operation in a year called a microteasy. And that's one that more people will be aware of. And that's where they physically open the testicles looking for sperm. Yeah.
Most men wincing at that.
Yeah, I saw you close your eyes going, Jesus.
Yeah. I mean, because I'm wincing and you're just telling me about it, to have to go through it. And as that was your third operation, I feel for you,
And I'm really squeamish, Keith. Like, I'm really squeamish. Like he was trying to draw me pictures of it, and I was going, oh yeah. And then like then I'm visualizing what that is, and I'm really bad around blood. Like
oh yeah. So I'd be saying, just don't tell me about it. Just knock me out and do whatever you have to do.
Yeah. So
I trust you.
Yeah. So the results came in then, and I remember Anna held my hand, and then we were told, look, we've done our best, but your ability to produce sperm, you can no longer do it. So at that stage, it was confirmed to me, which was, I'd gone through so much, but it was delivered in a much more approach compared to the other guy. It was so, I wouldn't say it was incredible, but it was much nicer, if you can say something. So then, ahead of time, we had looked to find a donor, because the consultant said, like, Gareth, the chances of us finding sperm are pretty low, like I think around 20%. I can't remember now off the top of my head. So you need to find a donor ahead of time. So we found a donor through this incredible woman called Erica Foster, who's in London, and she has a sperm bank, and she's become a really good friend of mine. And we bought sperm from Erica, and we then did 3 rounds of IVF. And then we found out Anna was pregnant with twins. And then the twins were born in November 2019 in the Coombe Hospital in Dublin, Ireland. And it's been quite the roller coaster since. So how I ended up becoming the advocate I am now is I was asked by a very good nonprofit in the USA called Living XXY to do an interview. A guy called Ryan Briganti set it up. He's XXY. So I you for a phone, he recorded the audio of the call, and it was over COVID. Like, it was a good thing to do. Like, it was a positive thing to do. And when the interview came out, when Fred's family heard the interview, they're like, "Would you go and do more? You know, this is a really positive story." And like, it was over COVID, everything was so negative. So I felt quite empowered, is a nice way of putting it, because it was a really good thing to do. So since then, I've done over 40 interviews on 3 continents. I've done a TED Talk, and then last year I went to the Dáil, I went to the Seanad. For those who aren't from Ireland, that is part of the government of Ireland. And I spoke to senators and their aides about my experience. And I put forward proposals that I wanted the state to adopt, because we as a society, like, we have to talk about fertility. Across the world, fertility rates are dropping. And I firmly believe that if men are better educated, they can help to have a family. That sounds very kind of grandiose kind of terms there, but I've been through that. I went through hell to have a family.
Yeah, it's one of those basic human rights. If you don't have children, you absolutely have that right to not have children. If you want to have children, you should absolutely. Society should be doing everything it can to give you whatever you need to do what, we believe we've been put on this earth to do, which is to procreate. Otherwise, we just disappear. Which, the way things are going, maybe that wouldn't be a bad thing. And then we just start all over. But we really need to talk about this. And the reason I'm talking to you here on Moth News, and the reason I think our viewers are interested in this, because I did an interview a couple of months ago now with a solicitor friend of the show. And let me just tell you this news story. I don't know if you've come across it, but parents of children who were placed at a real and known risk for cancer, amongst other things, due to delayed treatment for undescended testicles, were not told about a report into concerns. The health committee, the Dáil Health Committee, was told. Lucy Nugent, the Chief Executive of Children's Health Ireland, CHI, told the Oireachtas Committee on Health that the parents did not meet the threshold for open disclosure. So there is this massive scandal. Now, we're the only, I'm reading this on breaking news, but we were the only ones that talked about it. There's a big thing coming down the line for Irish men, because I'm sure you heard about the hip surgery thing as well, where children had hip surgeries that maybe they didn't need. So there's that all, like, there's a lot of issues with the HSE. On top of that, now we have this concerns about orchidopexy, right? Orchidopexy, I'm going to say, I'm probably pronouncing it wrong. It's a surgical procedure to correct undescended testes. And this was raised in an unpublished report. So this happened to children. There was delays. So when you're born, you alluded to it there. When you're born, you're checked, your testes are checked. If they're undescended, something has to happen. So you have to have them taken down, And that's a thing in Ireland. That happens to every male child that's born. They're tested, and then within 12 months, if this hasn't happened, they go through this, okay? And that has to happen, okay? But there's been delays because of consultants, lack of money, lack of care, no one gives a shit, whatever. And we're looking at this thing coming down the line where a lot of young boys are going to go into, their 20s or whatever, and look to have children and not be able to. So this is a very real, like, you're talking about 1 in 6. Like, there's going to be a lot more than that in Ireland, because we took our eye off the ball. And we took our eye off the ball because we have become a nation of greedy people who are only interested in themselves. And you talked about empathy there, and we are lacking in the empathy to make sure that these things are done properly. And this is a massive scandal, and we've talked about it before. And that's why it's great for us to continue this conversation, because it's coming down the line for a lot of men. And to talk to you and what you went through, but you have children, and it's very important that people hear your story, know what's out there for them, that if you go into a consultant and they say, oh, there's a problem downstairs and you're just going to have to live with the fact that you can't have children, don't fucking believe them. There is things out there. There's things you can do. You weren't in a place where you could, you were so devastated that you couldn't see beyond what that consultant had said to you. He broke your heart, basically. You felt probably useless as a man, wondering what what's my actual role here? What's my use? Because we're told that's what we do. We bring home the dough, we bring home the bacon, and we make children. But luckily your wife was able to go, well, look, I'm going to have a look at this. And she, so having a strong partner as well is very important. But it's really important that we talk about this. So it's great the work you're doing. And I know that you're due to go and talk to to politicians in the north of Ireland.
Yeah. So to give you an idea how that kind of came about was, so I felt very empowered after being in Leinster House last year. And
what kind of reception did you get in Leinster House?
That was great. Yeah, I got, people were like, oh, I didn't know this. It was a Fianna Fáil senator set it up for me, which was brilliant.
Who was that? Do you remember?
Yeah, Fiona Loughlin.
Fiona Loughlin, yeah. Brilliant woman.
And I actually subsequently left them. I was actually in the Social Democrats. And the Social Democrats had told us, sorry, I'm having a ditch of Social Democrats, but I was a member of the Social Democrats. They used some of my ideas for their manifesto for when Ireland had its elections last year. But even though I made people aware in the Social Democrats that I was going to be speaking about male infertility, like how many people are out there talking about male infertility? Not many. How many in Ireland? I'm amongst, I say, a few. That's a nice way of putting it. So even though they knew or they were aware I was coming in, no adult could come down and see me. I was in the Shannon, or the AV room. That's probably a slight pet hate there, but it was Fiona. Fiona's amazing. She organized it all for me. And, that's to her. But I felt very empowered after that.
What did you ask for, and was it effective? Has anything happened since?
No, nothing has happened since. I'm one person, Keith.
Look, you got to start somewhere. I mean, it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Well, so I put forward one of my proposals. I put forward, which people will find this is insane. So in Ireland and across the EU, if you have to use donor sperm and donor egg, there is a VAT charge by the governments. This is insane. This is ridiculous. So you get this double kick in the balls, of you don't have sperm. Oh, but the government would help you have a family. But we're going to then charge a VAT charge on top of you to use donor sperm. I can imagine if you went into a hospital when Keith, you and your wife were having kids, and you went in and you did your 3 months check, and they said, "Oh, sorry, Keith and your wife, before we do any ultrasounds, before anything, we're now going to charge a 20% charge on what this would have cost if you had gone privately, but you're going through the HSC." No one would pay that. There'd be uproar because people say, "That's insane. You're now charging us because we conceived." This is insane. But because we don't talk about fertility, there's all this shame, and then no one will put their head above the parapet to say, "This is ridiculous. We need to stop this." This could be fixed immediately. The health minister, I feel, could turn around and say, "This is completely preposterous." Gareth has an answer.
Why are we making money? Why are we trying to make money on people who are trying to have people have children? And it's really important that people are able to have children if they want to have children. So we shouldn't be capitalizing on that.
Yeah, that was one of my. And, oh God, you put me on the fly now. I can't remember.
But that's still something that you're asking for. And that's what you went to. And to get to Leinster House and to get to speak in front of those people is quite an achievement. And I believe you should keep pushing for that. I mean, that's a very important. It's a very simple way of giving you a reason to be out there talking about it, and it's a very simple concept for people to understand. And also, it will allow people to empathize with those who are going through this kind of, journey, struggle, whatever you want to call it, adventure, scary adventure. It gives people an in, it gives people an understanding, it gives people a reason to talk about it, it gives people a reason to bring it up. You wouldn't believe that, I could hear a 60-year-old man saying to another man, charging VAT on this thing. And, it's a really nice, I really like that you sort of honed in on that. It's a really nice way of making it part of a conversation, giving people something to latch onto, because people don't want to talk about, having a needle put into your testicles. They don't want to talk about your testicles being open. They don't want to talk about undescended testicles. They don't want to talk about sex. They don't want to talk about, trying to conceive. They don't want to talk about, necessarily, some people do, but in general, but they will talk about a VAT charge.
Yeah. So to the best of my memory, it's 23% for donor sperm in Ireland and 19% for donor egg. And again, why is sperm seen as more valuable than egg? Why is there a disparity of 4%? What's that about? This is an easy fix, and Ireland could lead the way across the EU and the UK by saying, this is preposterous. Across Europe, our fertility rates are dropping. How can we incentivize people to try and have a family? And those who can't conceive naturally, we're going to drop that on donor sperm. That would make such a difference to so many people. And it's not seen as important. I know I can be on the soapbox all day about this. It's just, these are simple things that can make a difference to people's lives. Anna and I are fortunate we have children, but for us to have our children, Anna did a rough cost. It was, she believes, between 30 to 35,000 euro we spent to have children. It was the best 35,000 euro we ever spent. We were only do it because Anna inherited money from her late grandmother. But a lot of people don't have that option. If you go into something,
do you think, or maybe you're aware of men who have opted out of having children because of the cost, or I mean, I'm sure it's a thing where people would just go, it doesn't matter. If you're faced with a bill of 30 grand, and the way things are in Ireland at the moment, it's hard to get in the property ladder, it's hard to get a house. You need two people earning two good incomes nearly to pay a mortgage, all that kind of stuff. For most people, things are tight enough as it is. But then for someone to turn around and say, well, if you want to have kids, it's going to cost you 30 grand. That for me, I'd be like, I don't want children. It's fine. And to almost play it down, it would seem like, because it's such a big lump of money, you'd almost feel like it would be a selfish thing to want to do that,
Yeah, and there's no guarantee you're going to get a child out of this. So that's the other thing. This, my story is a success story, but for every success story, there are a lot of people out there who are struggling, who will struggle their life because they don't have children. And it doesn't have to be this expensive. The science was developed in the 70s. It isn't like this is new science. I have another idea that I would love to go to the central bank and say, develop a fertility loan. The banks are developing green loans, but why aren't they developing fertility loans that, if it works, then you pay it back at 0.2%? Something, it doesn't work. I don't know how they can make that work, but basically, there has to be a solution here. People might say, "Oh, that's very idealistic, Gareth," blah blah, and run the idea down. But it's not.
What's wrong with being idealistic? That's what we want. We want people to be. We want an ideal world for people to live in. That's fantasy. You live in fantasy. Yeah. You create your own reality. That's how things work. I think it's a brilliant idea. Do you think the problem is that it's not a vote getter? People aren't asking about it. How many people? Is it affecting enough people, enough men, for it to be? I know you said the Social Democrats put it on their manifesto. They obviously believed there was something in it to use it.
But I think it comes back to our whole education, because we don't talk about it. So we're every year we're pushing out. I don't we, as it sounds like a factory, but we're putting out young men, young women, and we're kind of supporting this narrative that fertility, women are aware of their fertility because their cycles every month. But imagine like if guys came out of puberty and they're about to go to university, and they said just before you go into university, you're at the end of being 18, 19, or you're 20 now, so you're 20, you're at the end of your 3 years, you have to get a semen analysis where your overall health is. And imagine guys did that every 2 years. That would then I feel that would get into people's heads. Oh, I have to go for my semen analysis. And then there's like, hopefully drop down subconscious. What quality of my sperm? Because some people don't have sperm. Sometimes sperm have sperm DNA fragmentation. It's where the quality of the sperm breaks down, is my understanding. And that is changing people's conscious memory. They're then aware that it isn't just all women who have fertility issues. It affects men. I don't think that's groundbreaking. It's just changing the perspective in our society.
Yeah, well, let's widen that out a little bit, because if we're serious about mental health and men's mental health, then this is a really, really big area and a really important area for us to look at as a society. And I'm sick of government TDs coming out and supporting a drive for darkness into light, the walk, blah blah blah, when they're directly affecting adversely the mental health of people in this country by their actions, by their lack of empathy, by their lack of investment into things like education for autistic people, better healthcare for children. You have to look at the debacle of the Children's Hospital. You have to look at the hip operation thing. You have to look at the undescended testicle scandal that's coming down the line. We are, as a country, and our government, or the people that we voted in, are adversely affecting the mental health of its own people. If you look at, we've done a lot of interviews on care homes and what older people, how they're treated in care homes generally across the board in this country is absolutely despicable. We are responsible for a litany of, a history. We have this history of bad mental health, and we're making it worse by our inaction and our inactivity, because we're obsessed with money, we're obsessed with success, we're obsessed with talking about Apple, we're obsessed with talking about Facebook, we're obsessed with talking about politics, American politics, blah, blah, blah. All this stuff is distraction, and we're not doing the basics for our people, which is caring. We don't care in this country. That's the problem, and everybody thinks, oh, it's mine to deal with, I'll deal with it on my own, and that in itself leads to bad mental health. Male suicide levels are ridiculous. I mean, it's insane that and that's another thing we don't talk about in this country. But if we widen that conversation out a little bit, and we talk about getting your sperm checked and sperm counts and all that, how important that is, then we can also talk about erectile dysfunction issues, right? So then we're getting into areas of how's your testosterone? Are you having sex? Are you having a healthy sex life? Because healthy sex life is important for mental health as well, and for a healthy marriage and a healthy long-term relationship. And this is something that men and women should be able to enjoy into their until they I mean, I watched this an old piece of footage from RTE. I think it was RTE, but it was black and white, and it was a man probably from Kerry, and you're talking about goat weed or goat weed milk, and he was making this a Viagra of the day. And he was talking about how a 91-year-old man he knows still drinks the goat weed milk. It's a herb, and he's still sexy. He's still sexy. He's too sexy. And what he meant by sexy was sexually active. We look back and think we were backwards back then, but there's a man in the middle of nowhere in Kerry giving his friends this herb so they can get an erection, so they can have sex, and the man's 91. That seems to me like a much healthier society than what we've become. Sure. It's very simple. It's very simple for a fella to go up to another fella who had a flat cap, wearing a pair of wellies and going, have you hatting for my, I can't get it up and I want to keep having sex. And it wasn't like he didn't sit down in front of a consultant. The consultant didn't go, well, you're 91 now. You need to stop thinking about having sex. He said, no, I'll give you this, and you can be as sexy as you like until you die. It's important. These are important conversations. And I think this is a part of that wider conversation where we allow men to go, I'm not getting an erection. I'm embarrassed about it. I won't talk to my wife about it. She thinks I don't love her anymore, but I'm just like, and we're just growing further and further apart because I can't be honest about it because I've never really talked about it because no one's ever talked to me about it. So this is a big part of who we are as a society and how we talk about things and how we talk about the embarrassing things. And why are they embarrassing? Because probably the church told us that you shouldn't touch your penis and don't masturbate and sex is bad. And yet we will tell women what they should do with their bodies until the fucking cows come home, and whether they should have children and when they should have children and not out of wedlock, and you're not allowed to do this. And if you do have get pregnant, you're not allowed to, you have to have it. So they'll talk. And they'll also talk about what gay men should be doing, what men should be doing in the bedroom, in the privacy of their own bedroom. We're obsessed with that. And also we're obsessed with sexuality of people who feel like they were born in the wrong body. But the things like this that are actually happening, that are actually affecting the well-being of men in this country, we won't talk about them. Like, what the fuck is going on?
And this is not unique to Ireland. Like it's
well, totally, but and I'm sure it's the same in the UK with the stiff upper lip sort of, the how they are and how they treat, they don't tend to, England has this thing of like sort of, I know it's a generalization, but yeah, it's a problem all over the world. We can only really talk about Ireland, and as you say, let's make Ireland a unique place where we are the land of 1,000 welcomes again, where we welcome our friends, our neighbors, for whatever it is, and we care. Like, to put the word care back into, I love the fact that the word care is in care homes, and like it's the worst place in the world for an old person to end up in this country, because they don't care. But it's all of it's part of a much wider problem, and I think that people like you should be applauded for coming out and talking about it, and that's why I wanted to talk to you, because this is what I'm interested in, is caring for people and making sure that they get what they need: food, water, shelter. If they want to have children, let them have children. If they want to live as a gay man, it's not that difficult. And also stop allowing religion to have some say in what we're doing. It's very, very straightforward stuff, and
as well, Keith, that that guys are not told, and they're not told this in the fertility clinics either. Well, maybe they're told now. They didn't say it to us. So when Anne and I were co-sleeping with the kids, I was really concerned about being in bed with one of the twins, that I could roll over my sleep and smother that child, because I said, well, I don't want that to happen, And then Anna said, well, there's a thing in your brain that recognizes when you're asleep that there's a young infant beside you, and it will not let you roll over on top of that child. And I said, what? Are you serious? Because, yeah, there's something like part of your brain recognizes that child. And I say, and I kind of thought about going, well, wow, that's amazing. But guys are not being told this if they have to use donor sperm. That though they don't have that genetic relation to that child, their subconscious doesn't make that distinction. It's their conscious mind and the way we are raised in our society, that it's your genetics are important. Genetics aren't important. They are not important. And if more guys knew that, I don't think to make that leap to using donor sperm would be that difficult. I really do believe that. And I've said that to guys who are on the fence about it, who've contacted me. And then it has had, what's the word I'm looking for? It has had an impact on their form of thinking, that they've gone on to then have a donor conceived child.
Yeah, because you, as a man, we're told that leaves the rearing of the children and the caring for the children up to the women, and the man goes to war and then goes to work, whatever's going on at the time. We need men to be less emotional than that. We tell them lies so that they are what we need for the factories and for the offices and for the for the when they go to war, basically, yeah. Okay. In the trenches, we need them to be cold, and because there are organizations that need us to go to war to make it seem like that we're in fear of our neighbor, and we these things are important. They're not, and we need to cop on and realize that that we're being told a lie. But that's part of it, is that we're not told that. I'd imagine your role as a father would be similar to mine, is that if I, God damn it, if I could breastfeed, I would, but the fact that a man it's inbuilt into him to not roll over, and it's science, it's nature that you men should be close to their children, in the bed, and like this is so that's telling that nature itself is telling us that what we're telling our men is wrong.
Yeah, and also just to kind of again pushing back against society. My wife works, and I'm a stay-at-home parent. And I highlight that because, again, so few men do it. But when I tell other parents, often on the weekends, I'm the odd playground I go to, I don't really do playgrounds, and I meet parents that get talking to them, and then they say, and then all too often, I swear, Keith, the guys will turn around and they kind of look at you and go, you know what? I'd happily give up my career to be a stay-at-home dad. Like, a lot of them don't turn around going, oh God, I don't know how you could do that. They don't. Maybe one or two might have said that, but the vast majority of people, and there are guys from all walks of life, they're like, I would happily give up my career and my wife would work. Now, are they just saying that? Or because if they're only just saying that, then I don't know why they said it. Like I opened up. I don't have sperm.
They're not saying it to make you like them. They're being honest. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
People are not going to see it again. But then, I'm very active now on LinkedIn, and I see a lot of stuff from like women are kind of putting this impossible position of, do they go back to work and give up their career? And I see a lot of posts of like all this conflict because they conflicted. They now have a family either through IVF or naturally, and then they feel conflicted. But no one is asking men this conversation. Well, why do women have to give up their careers? And that might seem easy. I had a business, I closed it. It was a nightmare. I'm glad it's gone. It's the best thing ever. But why aren't we people like a heterosexual couple are having, for argument's sake, for this story we're having here, for the husband, would you be interested in giving up your career, take a 3-year break, and let your wife work? Like, why aren't we having this conversation? Why is it always assumed the woman will do it? Why?
Yeah, but also, why don't we, like, why is society so, I just think society is a bit broken. It's set up in that way. Like, why isn't it set up that you could work for 3 days and your wife could work for 3? You could both have a career. And this idea of a career is like, well, what does he want to do? And how much time do you want to spend on that? And how much time do you want to spend on your children? And if we could create a society where people can like spend 3 days on a job, earning money, doing something that they're passionate about, and then the rest of the week with their children. This idea that we work, and certainly like the property situation in Ireland doesn't help, because both adults generally now have to work, and then they like the children go to a crash, and nobody really wants that. Like, how do we create a society where we're not just like working our asses off, getting home tired, putting the children to bed, like collecting them crash, giving them something to eat, putting them, but not really spending any time with them for a lot of people, during the week. And then like, having this weekend where like, we need to cram everything in. It's stressful. It's not enjoyable. There's too much, people have to commute. There's too much expense. There's too many like hidden taxes. It's just things. We're not focused. We're focusing in the wrong areas. And I do believe that if we focused in the right areas, initially, maybe you'd think, oh, well, where would the money come from? Where would it would reveal itself. Things would settle down, and people would do the work. And don't worry about the money, worry about the people, because what's happening is there's too many people in prison. There's too many people, needing to have longer stays in mental hospitals, or do you know what I mean? There's too much illness. It's like if I was you, I wouldn't start from here. That's what I would say to Irish society.
Yeah, like I do see stuff online, people sharing stuff more in England than in Ireland of like our peers, Keith, guys ended up in hospital with burnout. Yeah, and they're sharing stuff online, and then you see sometimes people going, "Oh, this isn't really the platform for doing that." Like, do not applaud that person for being honestly saying it's not worth it. Stop. You don't need to work 8 days a week. You can work 4. Um, so,
but at the same time, I'll bring it back to your particular advocacy work. But at the same time, as men and women as well, like there's a lot of shame around infertility for women as well, or women who choose not to have children. That seems to be a problem for everybody not fucking involved in that woman's body. That men don't feel like they can talk about the fact that they're struggling.
Yeah.
With work, with the pressures, with stress. It's not a very manly thing to say, I can't keep this pace up. No, you must be strong. You must push through. You must keep going. And when you're 65, hopefully you'll have some money so you can enjoy, traveling to France for 3 weeks every year until you die. Like it's we're not doing a very fucking good job of society at the moment.
Yeah, like one of the things that people can do for themselves is like okay, I do like going to the pub, I'll be honest. Yeah, but I think I mentioned this the other day. Like I had a very honest conversation with someone. Well, I talk about the story I mentioned.
Of course, yeah.
So I went for with a pal in the town here, and I'm not saying alcohol solves everything, but I do find that when you have a pint or two, you don't have to have loads. You can have these amazing deep conversations that you just don't know where they're going to go. And
I also think it's important for you, Gareth. You're a stay-at-home dad. You need to, get out and have a chat with your, like it's community as well. It's not. That's not an alcohol thing. That's a community thing.
Yeah, well, I'll tell Anna. I'll do that every night. But what happened was, anyway, the guys was off chatting to someone, and I was just standing there. And then this guy, he's ordered a pint of Guinness, and he's waiting for the head and all the rest of it to settle. And he asked me this question. He said, "How would you feel about having a conversation about politics?" Now, I'm a very open person. I kind of felt he knew what this conversation was going. And he said, "Oh," I said, "Sure, you can ask me any question you want." He said, "What's your thoughts on immigration into Ireland?" And I said, "You know what? I think it's one of the best things ever. I think it's brilliant." I said, "Some of my closest friends are people who are not from this country." I said, "They are brilliant, warm, kind people." And then he said, "Well, I'm all for immigration, but," and when someone says "but," then there's, and that was the whole reason he asked me this thing originally. But it brings it back to my whole thing about being an advocate. And he said, "I think it should only be women and children." Okay, I said, "Okay, right." I said, "Can I ask you how old you are?" And he said, "I'm 18. I'm 45. It's a 27 age year gap between us." So I said, "I want to show you something." So he did not know who I was. So I showed him an image on my phone of the children, of the twins. I said, "What do you see when you see that image?" So what do you think? He said, "Oh, wow, they're lovely. Those are lovely, lovely Irish children." I said, "Okay, do you see anything else?" And then at this stage, he was kind of questioning. I said, "I'm not trying to trick you. I just want to ask your honest opinion." He said, "They could be Slavic. I think because they have blonde hair." I said, "Okay." So we'll go with what you said originally. You said they're really nice Irish children. I said, "Do you want to hear something really cool?" He said, "Of course, when you say it like that, they're going to ask." He said, "Those children aren't genetically related to me." Okay, so I was born in Ireland. I grew up in Ireland. Those children are not genetically related to me. Their mother is not from Ireland originally. She's from abroad. But when you saw that image of those children, and I said their names, and you saw the background of like a friary or something behind them, you assumed they were Irish. And I left this gap, Keith, deliberately. And then he kind of thought about it. And it was really amazing. It was like all this noise around us in the pub, and it all disappeared. And it was only myself and him talking. And he said, "You know what? That's one of the most profound things someone has ever said to me. You've just got through to me in such a way about immigration into our country." I said, "Because I looked at an image and I assume those kids are Irish. And you've just kind of highlighted that genetically they're not Irish. And I said, and then I went on to say, you know that ultimately we actually are all immigrants because the human race came out of Africa. So we are all immigrants. And, you know, that was kind of coming full circle from where I was 6, 7, 8 years ago, that I was able to change his perspective about immigration. I know we kind of went off topic, but it is related to genetics and fertility. It's all connected, I feel. And I do really feel that we have to have these conversations, because like I changed that guy's perception in a positive way.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's all linked. You can't, I mean, if you're talking about empathy, you know, you can't be empathetic towards some people. But if you look at what's happening in the north, and if you look at the way fascist organizations work, it's the othering of people for the benefit of them, of these fascist organizations financially. Like if you look at why we were told black people are less than us, it was to allow white people to use them as slaves, you know, so we wouldn't feel like it was a bad thing. So, well, they're not the same as us. They're not as intelligent. They're kind of closer to animals. It was said about the Irish as well, by the English as well, so they could, you know, the people wouldn't feel too bad about us dying in the famine. So if you look at the reasons why people are othered, I mean, I read a great quote. It was like the quote was the question was, what are we going to do about the others? And the answer was, well, there are no others.
Yeah, that's the end of that.
You know, stop thinking about borders, stop thinking about language, stop thinking about skin colors. Just, you know, we are all. I tell you what, there is an issue. This is a class issue, right? So the working class, the poor class, the people who live in the poorer sections of society, the lower socioeconomic sections of society, are used and abused by both sides. So they're used to further a fascist ideology. They're told that the reason you don't have a house and the reason you can't get on the list and the reason is because those people over there have just moved into that hotel up there. They're getting like iPads and free holidays, and they're going off to, you know, Mosney, like, you know, just these people have everything, and they're taking everything, and they're taking it from you, right? And that allows them to believe, so they direct their anger at them. Meanwhile, the people running the country get to just do whatever the fuck they're doing, and, you know, and it's not good. You know what I mean? So it's like it's a misdirection. And if you got to look at these things. You got to look at the birth of the KKK and where they came from. They came from the north of Ireland. They came from Scotland. They came from Presbyterian. They came from, and these are like nationalists. These are like unionists. These are people who hate others, right? They want everybody to be white, English speaking. They don't like foreigners. They don't like, I mean, Irish Catholics, they see as, you know, they put them in the same, you know, the different race. They're not like us. And like now we're looking at a situation where there are organizations within Ireland, working within Ireland and in England, who are being funded by the KKK. So it's come full circle. You're being told lies about other people, and you've got to look at the reasons why organizations would do that. And you look at Nigel Farage in the UK. He's now talking about, you know, the peace process and changing the agreement there. You know, and that is basic. The reason he's doing that is because he would like the support of the unionist politicians when it comes to him running for power. He wants power, he wants money, and he's been backed by people who want to be able to control countries if they can, and they're using fascism and othering of people to do that. And it's very straightforward. Like, so don't be like anybody watching this. Don't be duped.
Yeah.
Don't be the idiot. Don't be the useful idiot. Because useful idiots are a thing. They're the people who will march, and, you know, on O'Connell Street to the GPO to say, you know, immigration is a problem, foreigners are a problem. And meanwhile, you haven't noticed any of the financial discrepancies that are happening within the departments and of our government. And the real reason there's a housing problem is because of vulture funds and because of agreements that governments seem to have with landlords and with, like, don't be a useful idiot. Like, do your homework, you know, at least. If you do all your homework and you see everything and you look at everything, you still think, you know, somebody who has a different skin color that moved into an accommodation down the road is the problem, then, you know, have at it. But don't be just fed lies, you know. And it's important, because if you're going to talk about mental health, men's fertility. We're going to have honest conversations. Let's have honest conversations, you know. And I'm glad you brought that up, because I know it's not directly linked to what we're talking about, but it's all linked, Gareth.
Sure. Yeah.
So what do you hope to achieve then with the marathons? So you've got a marathon. Tell people about the marathon.
Sure.
It's Saturday, isn't it?
No, this coming Saturday. So
yeah.
I'm running the Dingle Marathon. It's 26.1, 40.4 kilometers. If people want to sponsor me, there is a GoFundMe page. I think I shared it with you already. If you can't share it, people go directly to fertilityaction.org, and on the front page of the website, they can donate to me there. To donate to the charity in general. Like ultimately, like I have like I in a roundabout way, you mentioned about Northern Ireland there. I'm going to Northern Ireland in October. I'm going through the SDLP there to help organise for me to come in to talk at a closed event to MLAs, which means Member of Local Assembly, for people who don't know what that means, in Stormont in October. And but what makes this event slightly different is that working with an aide to a woman called Cara Hunter, who's amazing. He said, Gareth, your story's really insightful, but ministers could ask certain questions. And of course, I'm not going to have all the answers. I'm not a doctor. So he suggested of having other people come on board. So I've organised other people from across Ireland and UK to make it almost like a kind of multi-speaker event talking about fertility for all to help educate ministers. And that's next month. That's in October. Like ultimately, I'd love to go to Wales. I would go to Scotland. I would go to England. Like last year, I began contacting Liberal Democrat MPs about fertility. I said I lived in Ireland, but all my treatments in the UK and the whole story and blah, blah, blah. I'd love to begin a conversation about how more people across the UK could be supported with fertility. And the overwhelming answer was, what's your postcode? I said, well, my postcode is an Irish postcode. What's that matter? I said, oh, you have to live in my constituency for me to help you. And that wasn't one or two of them. That was loads of them. So
yeah. Look, rules are we know how arbitrary, idiotic certain rules are. But well, maybe that's a sign for you to go directly to Europe.
Well, I've started that actually. I've actually started emailing. I got in contact through certain. I meant to mention that. Yeah, so I follow European politics. I found an MEP that helped me, and they told me you need to contact this person, and I already have started that that conversation. I actually need to send follow-up emails because I haven't had a response, but I don't give up. That's what I'm trying to say.
The man does not give up. So this is the GoFundMe page. Pretty Fly for XXY runs 6 marathons for fertility action. So
running 1 marathon, not 6. 1.
It's your 6th.
6. It is my 6th.
That's the headline.
That'll be quite a long day.
You're not running 6 marathons next Saturday, are you? Not that you know of. So that's the GoFundMe page. I'm just looking to see what people would search for. Is it your name?
So my name is Gareth Landy.
But
if it's fertilityaction.org, and then my Instagram handle and my website is prettyfly. XXY.com.
We can share that. Sorry, I just lost your audio there momentarily. So we can share that as well on our socials. Yeah, I mean, so I think it's the name is Katie Rowlands. Is that right?
That's correct.
Yeah, so she's organized that. So you can look her up as well, or just give your Instagram.
Oh yeah, so my Instagram
again.
prettyfly 4 XXY. Pretty Fly for XXY.
And all the late girls say he's pretty fly for an XXY guy. There you go. That's how you remember it.
Yeah, roll that out every night.
So tell me, before I let you go, because you've been very good with your time and we've covered lots of topics and we've gone all over the place. It's been a really, really great conversation. What advice would you give to anybody watching this that is struggling with fertility, who, is maybe afraid to look into it, afraid to even face it? And what would you say to a man watching, or the partner of a guy or a woman watching who's, I suppose we'll direct it at men, like, who's struggling with the thought of figuring out what's going on with their fertility?
I would recommend, there are very good support groups. There's one in Ireland called NISIG, NISIG, and they run support groups around the country. And Anna and I went to a lot of those support groups, and they're brilliant. Like, they're really good. And you're in a room with other people who are struggling with fertility. And that's the thing, when you learn about your fertility, you feel so alone. Especially for men, guys feel so alone. Like, and I remember being at an event, and this is before we had the kids and everything like that. And I'd be very open, like, sure, I'm very open. We've been talking for over an hour about this. And I said, okay, I found out I'm an XXY person. I'm going through hormone treatment, where blah, blah, blah. And I would talk really openly about it. And then as we would go to other events, and I was saying, we're now looking at donor sperm, blah, blah, blah. And I remember we were at the event, and then I went around the room, and I always noticed the guys would be at these events, but a lot of them would not speak. And some of them would say, oh, the issue is with me. But I actually felt, I just listened to your story and I understood everything you're saying. That's how it feels for me. But I can't talk about it. But it was like, if I heard someone else talking about it, then I wouldn't. For me, it's kind of reassuring hearing someone else have those same thoughts. But so many guys, I think, feel so lost about it. They see it as an attack on their masculinity, that a lot of the stuff and how we raise our kids, but that mindset, it's all kind of eroded in a second. But I would say go for therapy. Therapy is really important. And check out a really good consultant, Jonathan Ramsey in London, who's still my consultant. He's brilliant. He's really good.
Sorry, NISIG, go and find them and do your research and look into it. Don't be afraid. Don't deny your own happiness, due to embarrassment, because embarrassment is just society has told you it's bad to talk about these things, and don't believe that shit, because society tells you a lot of lies. You're a good person and you deserve happiness. That's what I tell everybody. And Gareth, you're a good person as well. Listen, thanks for talking to us. Is there anything I missed out on that you wanted to mention? I think we covered everything.
Yeah, I think it was great, dude. Yeah.
And knowing both of us now that we've spoken for about an hour, we both need a good lie down.
I'm going to go for a swim now. So that's what I'll do.
Oh.
Yeah,
I'm going to go.
So.
I'm going to have a nap.
Oh.
My daydream about swimming. Listen, Gareth, thanks a million for talking to me, and best of luck with the marathon, and keep up the good fight, and keep talking, and don't, I always say to people, if you feel tired, if you feel you're burnt out, take a break. Don't stop. Take a break. Pick it up when you're ready.
Thanks, Keith.
Gareth, take it easy. There you go, folks. That's Gareth. Go and find that GoFundMe page and go and support the guy. He's one of the good ones. And, I think that when somebody goes through what Gareth's been through, he's learned a lot about empathy. He's learned a lot about himself. He's learned a lot about, he's probably had to deal with his own, you deal with your own mental health issues, your own insecurities, all that kind of stuff. And that's why therapy is very important. And that's why, having conversations is very important. And I think, one of the most important things is we're very good on saying, telling men and telling women, if you're not feeling well, it's okay to not be okay. You should speak out about it. But we have a real issue. The issue really isn't people speaking out, because people speak out all the time. They just don't feel listened to. So for what I would say is, Moth here is here. We are here to listen to you. So if you've got something you want to talk about, get off your chest, an issue, this is a platform for you. And yeah, we want to change how society works and make it a fairer place and make it a better place. And it ain't rocket science, although all the money's been spent on rocket science, which is actually rocket science. So yeah, look, whatever ails you, go and see a therapist, have a chat about it. It could be infertility, it could be how you're feeling about your life, your work, whatever. And it's just, talking is a powerful thing, but talking to somebody who's listening to you. And that's what we need to be better at as in this country is listening. Listen, I'll leave you there. It's been a heavy conversation for this dreary, dark Wednesday lunchtime. But thanks for viewing, and mind yourself. Yeah. Maybe keep an eye out for the fellow beside you as well. We'll leave it there. Good luck.